Hi, Caroline Kearney here at Powell Arts with Michele Collins, who is one of the fabulous artists in our juried show, which starts March 17th and runs through the end of May. Michele, would you like to introduce us to your piece?
Yes, I'm Michele Collins, Painted River Studios, and I paint fairy tales. And I will start with a quote from C.S. Lewis. Someday you will be old enough to read fairy tales again. And why I paint them? Because these tales are thousands of years old, handed down even before printing, and they really have a lot of meaning for us as adults. Tolerance towards eccentricity, hope, inspiration, and a little magic in your life. And this one is from Alice in Wonderland. I use oils over much loved vintage storybook pages, so the tale comes through, and also some gold leaf accents in this one. And this is the rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. And if you know the tale, you know he's always hurrying and always running ahead. And I think one of the sayings is, the hurrier I go, the behinder I get. And I wanted people to get inspiration from this, that to slow down, enjoy the moment, and take each task. And I think it's a Zen type of thing. When you start something, finish it, take your time, and do it right. So that's kind of my inspiration for this piece.
I love this. I love everything about it, and it's not just because I have a buddy named Gus. I love the story of Alice in Wonderland, and I 100% agree with you that there's a lot of wisdom, even in the kind of silly juxtapositions it makes and the eccentricities that really speak to real life. And I think it's such an interesting. We were talking about earlier. How did you come to, if you're standing in front of this piece, you can literally see the story laid out before you. And so it comes together really holistically. It's such an interesting medium and an interesting way to layer. How did you get into this?
It was difficult because I love fairy tales, and I had an interior design business, as I said, for 30 some years. And I decided 2 years ago just to paint. And I actually started with, and I wanted something unique and something different, something, maybe call it clean creating from my heart. And I started with animals and using a lot of metal leaf. And I realized at one point, I really love fantasy and I love fairy tales and I enjoy reading them. So I thought, how can I incorporate that into my art? And I actually was in a museum in Florida, the Norton Museum, and I saw, you remember her name, Maria Barrio, and she does collages and paper collages. Well, I was so taken back.
Yeah.
So I ordered all these Japanese papers, and I was going to do fairy tales, which is what her work reminded me of in collage. Got home, got the paper, started ripping, and realized, I'm not a paper collage artist. I like painting in oils. And so I thought, how can I, and all of a sudden I got the idea to use the vintage storybooks, which I buy on eBay, and put the story behind my fairy tales. And again, they have so much meaning to me. We learn so much from reading these fairy tales, just how to deal with everyday life and problems. And so that's kind of how it came about. And I have been using the gold leaf with my animal painting. So I don't know, and just kind of incorporated it with it.
Well, and also historically, how you could get illuminated manuscripts of these fairy tales and things like that.
I didn't think about that.
It really speaks well to it, and I love how I love the details that harken back to the story. The way that you use the chessboard and the watch, and the rabbit is in the watch, literally in time, and I just think that that's so interesting. I love the idea that I wouldn't what's so funny about it is because I probably it's a bias of mine, because I look at this and I say, this is a beautifully elaborate painting, and it is, but it is also a collage, which I somewhat miss sometimes. But I think the collaging actually adds so much framing and beautiful context to this piece. I cannot stop looking at it. When I saw the digital image, I loved it. And in person, it's even more striking. So I don't know if I don't even think I have another question. I'm just kind of awed. I think you kind of communicated what you want the audience to take from this, but is there anything in particular that you want them to focus on this piece? You talked thematically about a lot
I
of
just
your
want them
work.
to slow down in their life, just in, and I want my pieces to mean something. I had a woman, I did Narnia from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I was confidence was the reason. And a woman bought it for her children. She has teenage children, and she wanted them to see it every morning to bring confidence to them.
That's great.
Yeah, that's so much that what art does. Why you want to have it around you is because it's one of those things that is a touchstone every day.
Yeah.
Before you go out in the chaotic world, it's touchstone, and then you can move on.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's kind of, I can get very tight in some of my work, but I love looseness in art. And so this was a combination of like a little bit of looseness in the background, getting tighter in here, and
well, even the looseness in the fur, it just brings out the characteristics so well, the way that you applied the paint itself.
And the way that you're using the line here, and you're using red around the word Red Queen and all of those things, is so beautiful. I had a question, but
I have a question.
I had a comment, which is that earlier, I probably just stepped out of the frame, but who cares? Earlier, we were talking about decorative work versus like fine art and how they are often combined. And I think that this is definitely fine art, but it also is so decorative because the detailing is so specific and beautiful. And I really I'm just noticing the yellow here that goes so well with
his little tie.
Yeah, so cute. So it ties into his eye beautifully. But you said you had a question. Karen.
Yeah, I was going to ask a little bit. Fairy tales are like icons, and they occur in all cultures, and they're very similar. So they do what you say. There's also something about them that's cliche, so it's like something that people automatically around the world easily identify with. Can you talk a little bit about your subject matter and identifying with it as a viewer?
I've always, I'd like to live in a fantasy world. I do read fairy tales. And I was in a program, 25 Days of Minis this past year. So I did 25 small 12 by 12 works. And I would read the fairy tale, try to get what was out of it, try to find a message in there, which there's many.
Yeah.
And then paint it, and then design it and paint it. I've done my favorites are Alice in Wonderland and also Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh, yeah.
I've done a lot with the wolf because when you think about it, maybe if Little Red was nicer to the wolf and everything and showed that wolf compassion. Yeah. So there was one that was based on compassion was the name of it. There was another one that said fear makes the wolf seem bigger. So I wanted somebody that was going through trouble and, to understand that if they believe that it's going to be trouble and happen to them, their problem's going to get bigger. So I don't know, these fairy tales, some of them are hundreds of thousands of years, thousands of years old and handed down and talked about. And they were lessons for children and adults, really.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah. I think adults should come back.
Did that answer your question? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's just like there's this funny phenomenon that happens now where the kids say things like, oh, that's cringe and stuff like that about things that are very popular. And the thing is that like, when people say cliches and things like that, like they are, I think that what people forget is that like, they're not those things. They're touchstones. They're a commonality that we all have in our lives. So it speaks across things.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of what you're talking about is the sensible and human nature of what's translated in these pieces that continue to speak to us over thousands of years, which I think is a terrific lesson because it adds nuance and like growth in everything.
Well, I also think of cliche as
you did a whole series on cliché.
I know.
Did you really?
Yes. Yes, I did. All involving children. But that's me, but it doesn't matter. But the thing is cliches are things that come out when you're in that uncomfortable moment, or you're not sure, or things don't seem to be quite right. And of course, when you read fairy tales, you step into a world where things might be topsy-turvy and they might be off balance. And so you go back and let's face it, the rabbit ended up being very helpful to Alice.
Yes. And I think in a lot of them too, you see where people have really insurmountable problems and things and in the end they figure a way out, and there was hope and there was belief that they could accomplish different things, and it happened.
And oftentimes they're the nature of them being like, it's weird because this is a rabbit, but the nature of like the humanity of the character is actually what ends up being their saving grace. Like,
yes.
And I think that that's a good message for always. So,
well, I hope to continue with the fairy tales, and I keep thinking, because my two are Red Riding Hood and this one, to maybe do a whole series on nothing but Alice in Wonderland.
I love Alice in Wonderland.
You know, and
so
maybe then another series on just Red Riding Hood. When I did the 25 Days of Minis, I kind of touched on a lot. Another one was Puss in Boots, and he had no morals. None. So I figured he was like your best friend that always got you in trouble, you know?
We all have one of those.
We call my rabbit Gus in Boots because he will do anything to get a treat. Whatever the market will bear.
Doesn't matter, right?
He does not
But
care.
that's also why animals are so interesting, you know, and I think it draws a lot of people to watch animals, to paint animals, to see animals, to film them.
So, yeah. And I love Alice in Wonderland. In fact, White Rabbit is one of my favorite songs because I like Go Ask Alice, who is 10 feet tall.
Well, I put this on a story on Instagram, and I had the song White Rabbit on there.
Oh,
so
love it. So
everyone check that out on Instagram.
Obviously, we love this piece, and we're so excited to have Michele
We need
in
a title.
the juried show. She needs the title, and my brain is
Moments.
Sorry. So please come see Moments by Michele Collins in Powell Arts Juried Show now through the end of May.
Thank you.
Thank you.